hosts feel it would be a little unkind to present this podcast without just a word of friendly warning. We are about to unfold the story of Frankenstein, a man of science who sought to create a man after his own image without reckoning upon God. It is one of the strangest tales ever told. It deals with the two great mysteries of creation, life and death. I think it will thrill you. It may shock you. It might even horrify you. So if any of you feel that you do not care to subject your nerves to such a strain, now's your chance to. Well, we've warned you. Hello and welcome once again to the Frankencast. I'm the mad scientist Anthony Bowman. My pronouns are he, him, and I'm joined as always by
the incredibly squeaky gerbil mummy that is Eric Velasquez. My pronouns are also he, him.
Yeah, so, as we said, this week we're talking about the 2012 version of Frankenweenie, the full-length stop-motion animation version. If you don't follow us over on Patreon, a couple days ago we discussed the original 1984 short, so, if you're interested in hearing a little bit more about that, you can join and check that out over there.
Yeah, absolutely. It's a lot of fun over there.
Yeah, and so this version, like we've got, obviously, you're taking a half hour short and cranking it up to an hour and a half. So right. we're expanding the story a lot. But the basic through lines are still there. The plot synopsis for both of these would be pretty similar, but then there's just a lot of like fleshed out extra details added in here.
Yeah. So let's go ahead and kick it off where we start. So obviously, just like the 1984 version, we start with a movie inside of a movie.
Yeah, Victor is, he makes films for fun, and he's showing his parents his most recent film, Monsters from Beyond, starring Sparky. This one it's in 3D, which I don't know how a kid right. with like a home camcorder can make a 3D movie, but he did. And
right, and like you said, it's not also starring Sparky; it's also starring Rodan.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. So he's making a stop motion animated film within this stop motion animation. So it's you've got little GI Joes and little people and stuff. But yeah, the monster that he's fighting is not just a pterodactyl; it is definitely a Rodan figurine. And Sparky-saurus is Sparky with like a fin on his back and some horns.
Also stripes, because Tim Burton loves his stripes. We got stripes. We got Beetlejuice. We've got the Sandworms. Jack Skellington, I believe. So
yeah,
you got to have the striped Spiky-saurus.
Oh, definitely. And so as the film kind of reaches its conclusion, it breaks, and we see like the kind of like dissolve kind of thing that you would see on like old film reels as they like come apart. And Victor like rushes over and grabs the reel and everything, and he's like, I can fix that, and he goes running upstairs.
Yeah, that's kind of his mantra throughout this movie, is I can fix that.
Yeah. I mean, obviously, if you know even the basic plot of it, obviously Victor has a mind for fixing things that, if things don't go his way, he's going to try to figure out a way to fix them.
Right, yeah. Film, terminal conditions.
Right.
He's got everything.
Yeah. So he heads upstairs, and meanwhile downstairs, his parents, played by Martin Short and Catherine O'Hara.
Yeah, as we mentioned in the other one, it was we were discussing how like everyone was about to become famous or get pretty close to it. And this, most of the actors, Catherine O'Hara, like you said, she plays 3 parts. So does Martin Short. It's like most of the actors have already gone through at least one popular stage, and now they're going through their second.
Yeah.
And we even have Winona Ryder as Elsa Van Helsing.
Yeah.
That's
yeah.
fun.
So they're kind of, they're loving parents. They're a little concerned. Victor spends all his time up in the attic making his movies, and Sparky's really his only friend. And they're concerned. Like, they want
him to have a happy, fulfilling life, and they want him to make some real friends, you know, some real human friends.
Yeah.
They love their kid, and they're like, we want him to turn out normally, which is kind of hard to accomplish in this very, very weird town that they live in.
Right, exactly. So the next morning, we do cut to the paper boy throwing some papers at the Frankenstein residence.
Yeah, and we're introduced to the mayor of New Holland, Bob Burgermeister.
Yep, which we believe is a reference to Burgermeister Meisterburger of Santa Claus Come to Town fame, because he looks an awful lot like that character.
Yeah, and you know, obviously, you know, all the early Frankenstein movies have Burgermeister, you know, characters, and in fact, didn't we kind of like the Burgermeister in those movies is basically the mayor of those towns, right? So he's Mayor Burgermeister. So.
Mayor.
Yeah. And he's kind of like chastising Victor for letting Sparky into his yard.
You know, this is Dutch Dazzlers and pee on his flamingos.
Yeah, you know, normal like suburbia stuff, like, you know, keep your pet out of my lawn and all that kind of stuff. Right. And Victor, you know, he kind of apologizes and, you know, says he'll try to keep Sparky under control, and he, you know, heads off. And then Burgermeister basically does the same speech again to his goth niece Elsa, as you mentioned, played by Winona Ryder.
And you mentioned her dog Persephone. Well, not my name.
Yeah. So she is staying with him for a couple of months or something. Like he's sort of babysitting her, but it's like a long-term kind of thing. And so she's living there with her dog, the poodle Persephone, like you said. And he's worried. He doesn't want any kind of shenanigans because the upcoming town Dutch Day festival is getting ready to happen, and you know, everybody has, you know, high expectations for how it's going to turn out, and it all rests on him because he's the mayor.
Yeah, you gotta really ratchet up your Dutch Day for New Holland.
Yeah, exactly. So then we cut away to school, and the kids are in science class, and they're meeting their new teacher, Mr. Rizkruski.
Basically, Mr. Rice Krispie.
Right.
If you say that, you're pretty much on the ball.
Yeah, and he's played by Martin Landau, who, you know, has previously worked with Tim Burton as Bela Lugosi and Ed Wood. But here he's this sort of creepy science teacher who's kind of got like a vaguely Vincent Price kind of vibe about him.
And he's encouraging kids to become involved and love the science. And he also discusses how Mr. Holcomb was struck by lightning. Well, not exactly struck, but we have a convergence of two ladders that basically Mr. Holcomb happened to be in the way and bridge the gap and act as a circuit. So
yeah, so their former science teacher, that's why he's gone and why Rizkruski is taking over. And the way that he described, like, you get the sense that like he's a very serious, you know, science-minded guy, and like he wants to give the kids the reality of a lightning strike, thinking that like it might kind of comfut them.
Right. But he does
it in a way that's very kind of dry and like a little bit scary. But he's like, don't worry, lightning strikes are very rare. It's, you know, you don't have anything to worry about. And then the kids are like, I know you're new to town, but it's not very rare at all where we live. Like,
right, there's a thunderstorm every other night, right?
Yeah, and one of the kids is like, yeah, my dad's been struck twice.
Right, but why is that the case? It's like we're built on an ancient cemetery or abandoned gold mine, or
yeah. There's a weird. So you know, we'll meet these kids a little bit more as we go, but like there's a weird girl who is literally just named Weird Girl in the credits, and I think Catherine O'Hara plays her as well. But yeah, she's got this theory that it's either that the town was built on a cemetery or an abandoned gold mine, or a cemetery for dead miners.
Right.
You know,
one kid named Nassor, who's kind of like either a Karloff or Christopher Lee spoof, thinks it's because of the windmill, the giant windmill in town.
Yeah. And she's like, no, I think it's probably the cemetery stuff. That's definitely got to be what it is.
Makes more sense, right?
Yeah, and so the main, like, the kids, yeah, you know, as I said, this town is just full of weirdos, and so we have the weird girl who's just a weird girl,
right.
And as you said, you got Nasser, who is like, he's kind of got a little bit of a Karloff lisp, and he has like a little bit of a flat head, it's kind of a mashup of like the Karloff Frankenstein and the Christopher Lee Frankenstein.
Right.
And
we also have an unfortunate Asian stereotype that's actually played by an Asian person, but it's kind of like they took an Asian person and was like, we really want you to be super Asian, and the person was like, I don't want to do that. It's kind of uncomfortable.
Yeah, it definitely feels like I don't really understand why they pushed this the way they did. Like, a kid of immigrant parents is not, which I guess we don't know his parents. I mean, he could have been adopted from,
right.
From what, like there's no real definition of what Asian country he's from or anything. But yeah, his accent is just a little bit like a parody version of an accent. It's not like, there are definitely worse versions of fake Asian accents, but
not by much.
It still leaves a little bit to be desired, I will say.
We also have Edgar. Edgar.
Yeah, who's just like a slightly hunchback kid who is absolutely just like a Peter Lorre impression.
Mm-hmm.
And then we have Bob, who is
the fat kid, which is
yeah, he's not only the fat, he's like the kind of like jolly dumb fat kid, which is like a very specific fat kid stereotype that we could definitely do without. But yeah, we'll get a lot more with those kids as we go. And so after the discussion about why the town gets struck all the time, we cut back to the Frankenstein house, where Sparky's in the backyard playing through the fence with Elsa's dog, Persephone, and we see that she is a black poodle with like a Bride of Frankenstein kind of beehive hairdo.
Without the lightning stripes.
Yeah. So if you have seen the short, it looks like the poodle that shows up at the end, but like minus the lightning.
Right, for now.
Yeah, right. So then we cut back to school, and class is letting out, and Mr. Wyskrewski is telling the kids about the science fair, and he's really encouraging them all to sign up and take part, but he's handing out permission slips for the science fair, which doesn't seem like something that would require a permission slip.
Right, I don't remember that ever happening when I was a kid. It was just kind of like, you're doing the science fair.
Yeah, it feels like I think that really the only reason for that is for an upcoming scene. Like they just needed Victor to have to get permission.
Fair enough.
But before that, Victor is accosted by the weird girl
and Mr. Whiskers.
Yeah, her weird cat, Mr. Whiskers, who apparently has dreams about people she knows occasionally, and the way that he tells her that he's had a dream is by...
He has a poop in the shape of their first initial.
Yeah, and so she holds out a napkin with a V-shaped cat turd, and is just like... So he, she's like, Mr. Whiskers had a dream about you. And she tells him that, like, so Mr. Whiskers dreamed about Bob, and then he fell down a manhole, right?
Right, and then Toshiaki was the Asian kid, and apparently he pitched a perfect game. So, but already the rules of Mr. Whiskers' poo is just wildly out of place. It could be good, it could be bad, And then there was
something's going to happen to you.
Exactly.
Which definitely nothing was going to happen to you at all, except for my cat had a dream. So now something will happen to you.
Exactly. And then Nasser got hit in the head by Toshiaki's perfect pitch.
So Victor then heads home, and like I think it's like right outside his door, like before he goes inside, he bumps into Edgar. Mm-hmm. And Edgar wants to partner up for the science fair.
Yeah, he wants to build a death ray.
He really wants to lean into the Igor thing.
Yeah, but he also wants to build a death ray.
Right.
That's not allowed.
Yeah, like Victor's like, no, that's on the paperwork. We can't build death rays. And he's like, but besides, I work alone, so you're just gonna have to figure something out on your own.
There you go.
And so then we get family dinner at the Frankenstein house, and Victor, of course, has his science fair sign-up sheet, and needs a parent's signature. And this is like kind of like in the short, the dad is like super supportive, super like just behind anything Victor needs. This moment was kind of like shitty parenting a little bit. Like he's like a travel agent, and so a big part of his job is finding out what everybody involved wants, and then finding the place that will. And he's like, the thing is, compromise means that nobody's happy. Basically, it's
his main goal is to provide dreams. Right now, people may have conflicting dreams, so his job is to find somewhere in the middle. So he discusses sometime where he had a client he wanted to go golfing, but the wife wanted to, I believe, meet indigenous Native Americans, but they used an offensive word for it.
Yeah.
So that's unfortunate. But basically, that's his idea of compromise, is that they're going to go to Phoenix instead of the Amazon, or I forget where the husband wanted to go for his golfing thing.
I think it was like Scotland or something.
That's right. And so they both really didn't get exactly what they wanted, but kind of did.
Yeah, and he's like that's compromise is all about like giving up something, and so you may not be really happy, but at least you're not really mad. Like you just kind of are in the middle, and that's the best you can hope for.
Where neither one is really happy sometimes.
Yeah, and he tells Victor all this to say, I'm not going to sign your science fair sheet unless you compromise and do some sports, because that's what I want for you. So, not the best dad move here. I guess this is like him, being concerned about Victor staying all in the attic all the time, and he's just trying to find a way to get him to come out, and, experience the world. But, I think that, anytime you're forcing your kid into an activity, it's never going to go well. They're not going to have their heart in it, and in this case it doesn't really matter much, because Victor agrees, and we cut to pretty much like immediately he's in a baseball game, so he's up at bat. Toshiaki's pitching. The first pitch, Sparky runs up and just like snatches the ball before Victor can even swing at it. So they tie Sparky up so that he won't cause any trouble. But finally on the last swing, Victor knocks it out of the park. It's a home run. So it's like, oh, okay, so the cat, maybe, this is the thing. He predicted the good pitching game for Toshiaki, and that this time he predicted that Victor is going to get a home run on his, first day at baseball.
Well, that is until Sparky breaks free and chases the ball out into the street.
Yeah, so, obviously this is the sort of central, like, turning point of both the short and this version. Sparky runs out into the road, he gets the ball, and then goes to come back and is struck by a car and dies there in the street.
It's brutal. And, of course, Victor lets out the Darth Vader, no!
Yeah. And then we pretty much cut to the family burying Sparky at the pet cemetery. The pet cemetery in the short is like, that's when we get the credits, and we get to spend a lot of time seeing all the gravestones. Here, I think we get to see a few, and then we'll get to see more a little later, but like, this thing is like so pause-worthy. It's just full of sight gags, gravestones that are shaped like funny things, or pet names that are funny. Later
on, we're going to get the actual reference that we make in the short, or the Patreon to the short. We're probably going to be referencing the Patreon a bit, but there's a headstone that says "Goodbye, Kitty," which is a joke to Sanrio's "Hello, Kitty." And it has the eyes of the kitty X'd out.
Yeah. So they bury Sparky, and then we cut to like everybody at home, and it's raining that night. In the, again, going back to the short, we had the sort of like sight gag where it looked like it was raining, but it wasn't really. But here it's actually raining, and we have Persephone out back, sitting in the rain, missing Sparky. While upstairs the parents are tucking Victor in and kind of trying to, giving the sort of like normal parent platitudes that,
You never really lose anyone; they just move into your heart.
Yeah, and I mean, it's a sweet moment. They're trying to comfort him, but like anybody who's lost a pet or lost a loved one at all knows that like that it's kind for people to try to say things like this, but it's pretty useless in the moment. Like it, like I think Victor says, I would rather just have Sparky. Like I just want my dog. I want him here with me.
Yeah, it's definitely easy to empathize with that.
Yeah. And, so they head to bed, and then we get, like, one of the most heartbreaking moments in the film. Like, Victor sneaks out of bed and goes upstairs to the attic and gets out all of the home movies that he's made with Sparky and just starts watching through them.
Yeah, kind of reliving and purging those, basically, the sadness from it.
Yeah, it's such a real moment. Like, it's exactly what, I mean, I've lost a couple pets in the past year or two, and it's like the first thing you do is like you go through your phone and your computer and try to find all the pictures you have, and you just like go through and look at all those memories, and like the parents said, like they might live on in your heart, but there's something about like you want to see them, you want to like have your eyes on this this animal or person that you loved, and so Victor's lucky he's got all these like videos, he can see Sparky in action and like watch him play and everything, but it's incredible, it's comforting and also incredibly painful at the same time to watch those. And so but it's what we do, like we know it's gonna hurt, but like you kind of just have to do it anyway.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And so then we cut to like the next morning. Victor is, back in class, and Mr. Riskrewski is doing a demo of electricity with a
what happens
dead
when
frog.
You introduce electricity to frogs? Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, so it's the legs twitch, it's moving, and
Victor gets an idea.
Yeah, so he pretty much like he rushes home after class and starts like collecting electrical equipment around the house. This scene is very similar to the to the short. Mm-hmm. He gets stuff out of the kitchen, he gets stuff out of the garage. We don't get like the run-in with the neighbor here,
which is always fun, but yeah.
And then we pretty much see like that night Victor digging Sparky up in the pet cemetery.
Yeah, and as soon as he finishes getting him out, there's a weird interaction with a cat. And I don't think we ever see this cat ever again. It's a black cat. It kind of hisses at Victor, and then whenever he digs up the coffin, he like actually attacks Victor a little bit. But Victor gets Sparky out of the coffin, and as soon as that happens, it starts storming.
Like we said, this town, it's constant rain. Mm-hmm. So he gets home, and his parents are still up. So he's gonna like have to sneak past them. They are actually watching
or Dracula.
Yeah, and it's like all this is stop motion animation, and then we've got on the TV like the live action Christopher Lee on screen. Mm-hmm. Which like I think the original Frankenweenie is definitely like a love letter to specifically Frankenstein, but like other Universal and just classic horror in general, and this like dials that up to 11. Like it is just full. We've talked about Elsa Van Helsing, mm-hmm. and like there's just so many references to monster movies in this, and so of course we're gonna have to have Christopher Lee as Dracula in there,
of course.
And so Victor is able to sneak past his parents, and he gets upstairs, and we get our first look at the lab that he built out of home appliances.
Yeah, and he also starts stitching Sparky back together and adding a couple little bolts to conduct the electricity.
Yeah, and this lab, it looks so good. Like, it's very similar to the lab in the short. You've got a lot of home appliances, toasters, things like that. You've got a bike with both wheels acting as spinning science wheels.
That's how you know this is a good lab.
Yeah. And the thing about this also is that, like, in the short, it probably was super easy because they were like, we want this to look like, a kid did this with household items, so let's just we'll buy a toaster, we'll buy a bike, we'll buy, household items. It'll be super easy. But now this is in this stop motion world, they had to make all of these little teeny tiny,
Right.
Household items, and like the detail is so impressive. Like, I mean, the detail throughout this whole movie is incredible, but this lab especially, when you just like look and you're just like, they built every single thing in here. It looks really, really great.
Right. Even the electrical reindeer lawn ornaments.
yeah, some good old like old school like light up reindeer like you would see in Christmas Vacation or something. And so there's we get the whole revival scene. He sends Sparky up. We've got like the umbrella and the various kites, including the bat shaped kite that gets struck, and he lowers Sparky back down. And as is the case with so many Frankenstein adaptations, it doesn't look like anything's happened. Sparky's just motionless.
Well, that is until Victor hugs him and sheds a single tear. Aww.
Yeah, and it's like as soon as the tear drips onto Sparky, his tail starts wagging.
Yep. Full reanimation.
Yeah, so Victor yells, "Sparky, you're alive!" and Sparky's kind of running around. He's wagging his tail so hard that it goes flying off
into the basket.
And of course Victor says, "I can fix that."
That's right. Going with that mantra once again. All right, so the next morning, Mom is calling Victor down for breakfast.
Yeah, she can't find him. She ends up like going up into the attic looking for him, and he is kind of like, he hides behind a curtain, and then he puts Sparky under like one of those like wash tubs. And like, so the Mom's like, "Oh, okay, Victor's up here like looking at old videos of Sparky," which he was originally, but she's like, "It's time for school, you got to come down for breakfast and everything." Right. And so Victor heads off to school, and in the short, he like tricks or tries to trick his parents and say he's sick, and ends up sneaking back inside. But here he just goes to school and leaves Sparky alone.
That's right.
Which leads to like one of the funniest scenes in the movie. So like Sparky, gets out and starts kind of wandering around the attic.
Well, he gets visited by the creepy cat, or Mr. Whiskers. I'm sorry, Mr. Whiskers decides to pay him a visit.
And he takes a big drink of water, and like in the original, his neck stitches leak, but here it's like really spraying out, and he's it's like a dog when they chase their tail, but like he's chasing this spray of water coming out of his neck, and then ends up kind of like in the process bumps into the window, comes outside where Mr. Whiskers is, and a chase ensues. Chase.
Yeah, exactly. And of course, Sparky's running through the trash, running through flamingos, going through Burgermeister's yard.
Yeah, just generally like sowing chaos throughout the neighborhood.
It's really good.
And he eventually ends up making his way back home and gets into the backyard and starts kind of like, he goes over to see Elsa's poodle.
Persephone.
And, she's happy that he's back, and they kind of like touch noses and kind of like,
she touches his bolts and gives herself a little bit of a charge.
He zaps her a little bit accidentally, and that gives her the white lightning bolt streaks in her hair.
Right. So there you go. We got there.
Meanwhile, Edgar is coming home from school and happens to see Sparky in the backyard and is like, that's interesting, because we know dead, Sparky is dead.
Yeah, that's weird.
So then Victor ends up getting home, and he sees Sparky, and Sparky's very tired. He's obviously had a very busy day that Victor doesn't know.
Right.
And he's like kind of lethargic, so Victor like hooks him up to a car battery and like recharges him a little bit.
Right. Which, that would be nice, right? You could just recharge yourself a little bit.
Yeah, that would make life so much easier.
Right. Well, at this time though, it looks like Victor has a little friend. Mom says, "Hey, come on down, Victor. Your friend's here."
And it's Edgar.
Oh no, it's Edgar.
And so Edgar's like, "I know, Victor," and Victor's like, "I don't know what you're talking about," and he's like, "You know what I know."
Right. Victor tried to play it off. He's like, no. I know that you know that I know.
And so ultimately Edgar's like, yeah, I saw Sparky. I know he's alive. And if you don't want everybody to know, you're going to show me how you did it.
Right. He's got to get that A for that science fair, right?
Yeah. All the kids in this town are obsessed with this science fair.
They're all little bad scientists.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So Victor agrees. They end up with a goldfish. I can't remember. Does he go buy the goldfish?
Yes,
right
he literally
then?
goes buys the goldfish just to let it suffocate in the air so they can resurrect it. Edgar's awful. He is like Bela Lugosi's Igor, in that he's out for himself and he's a very selfish character, but he's also a lovable bastard.
Yeah, he's not just the dumb Fritz assistant. He's got agency and he is villainous. He has his own sort of selfish desires that he's gonna find a way to act on. So yeah, they manage to revive the goldfish, but somehow in the process it turns invisible.
Well, that's weird.
So you can put your hand in the water and feel him, and if you shine a flashlight at the glass, you can see a silhouette of the fish skeleton projected on the wall.
Right.
But if you actually look in the bowl, you can't see anything.
So Victor's like, okay, Edgar, yeah, I did your thing. Now go away and don't tell anyone what we did. So Edgar immediately goes to Toshiaki and Bob.
Yeah. Yeah, but he doesn't tell them about Sparky, but he's like, hey, I got this fish that it was dead, and Victor helped me, and we brought it back to life.
Yeah.
And it's invisible. And they're like, okay, they're like that. And so he shows them that there really is a fish there and everything, and then leaves, and they're like...
Well, Toshiaki doesn't he stick his finger in it and it bites him?
Yeah, and then so when Edgar leaves, Toshiaki's like, we got to do better. We're going to lose the science fair if we don't come up with something better than we've got now.
Right. And I think their ideas were sea monkeys at a Saturn V rocket.
Yeah. And so then we cut to the next day, and Edgar is confronted by Nasser, the sort of Karloff looking kid. Mm-hmm. And he's really dedicated to winning the science fair, and he heard about the fish and he wants to see it.
Right. Well, it turns out there's something weird about the fish now.
Yeah, they're feeling around in the glass. They don't feel him. They shine the light through. Nothing's there.
Yeah, it's there's nothing in the water anymore.
And Nasser's like, okay, so this was just a joke, and there was never a fish. It's just an empty glass. Mm-hmm. And Edgar's like, no, I swear there was a fish. It's just gone now. So he goes to tell Victor, and he's like, the fish disappeared. Maybe they don't last when you revive them. And Victor's like, oh no. So he runs home.
Yeah, I gotta make sure Sparky's there, right?
Yeah. And Sparky's fine. He seems okay.
Good.
I think Victor's a little nervous. Obviously this, there's a difference between a little fish and a larger dog. Maybe there's a time frame difference there, but for now Sparky's okay, so that's good.
Yeah.
And then we cut to Toshiaki and Bob. They are up on a roof working on their new science idea.
And you know what their new science idea is? It's a backpack full of Mentos and Diet Coke, basically.
Yeah. So yeah, Bob's the unfortunate guinea pig here. He's wearing roller skates and got 9 2-liters on sticking off of his back. And so yeah, they're gonna try to do rocket skates, and it gives enough power that he does start rolling, and he just rolls straight off the roof.
Yeah, exactly. And of course, since we're gonna use a little bit of logic, he notices that he's broken his arm. So after a delayed second or so, he goes, "Wah!" And then we cut to the ambulance.
Yeah, and I think she's like, "What were you kids doing up there?" And they're both like,
"Science!" Yes.
Yeah, and we cut from that to, now we got to blame science. So we've got a town hall meeting that it's all the adults in town. They're all anti-science now. It feels like all the school board shit that we've been seeing in the news lately. And, they're all mad that, their kids are learning serious new science, Pluto's not a planet anymore.
When I was a kid, I had Pluto was a planet and we liked it.
Yeah. And so they're obviously upset about, Mr. Riskrewski, that, he's teaching them, the kids, all this stuff. So, but he comes forward to kind of make his case for what he's doing.
And boy, does he make his case. Because immediately he says, "You all are ignorant and stupid." Well, he's not mincing words here.
Yeah, and he's not wrong.
No.
And he's like, so basically it's too late for you. You are going to stay stupid forever. But your kids, they have a chance. So I'm going to crack open their skulls. I'm going to reach into their brains. And I'm going to make them better.
Yeah. So this is the guy you can trust.
Yeah, and I don't, we said, like, he's kind of Vincent Price looking. He's a very creepy looking dude. He's got, like, way more teeth than he should, and they're all he looks like a broken piano or something, like, and so obviously they're just, this creepy guy's talking about breaking open their kids' heads, so they're not, the parents were already opposed to science, and this did not sway them at all.
Right, and well, not only that, he called them ignorant and stupid.
Yeah. So then we cut back to the Frankenstein house, and Victor is playing in the backyard with Sparky, and Elsa's on the other side of the fence, and they kind of like have a moment. They like talk, but like she can't know that there's Sparky, so Victor kind of has to try to like quiet him down.
But he barks. Yeah,
and Victor's like, "Nope, that was me. I'm barking. I miss my dog, so I'm just barking to pretend he's here."
Lovely Elsa is like, that makes me really sad.
Yeah. Yeah, that is definitely just like the saddest thing. So, but like they kind of have a sweet moment, like talking and everything, and then we cut to like the next day, and the kids find out that Mr. Riskrewski has been fired, and he's been replaced by the gym teacher who knows nothing about science.
Right, but she believes she knows more than the kids, and so
yeah. And so Victor rushes outside, and like, Mr. Riskrewski is out there with like his, little box of the contents of his desk loading up into his car. Mm-hmm. Victor's like, it's kind of like, we're going to miss you. You taught us about science. And he's like, in my country, everyone is a scientist.
Even the plumber won a Nobel Prize.
Yeah. And Victor's like, okay, so I got to ask your advice. And he tells him, that he did this experiment and it worked once, but, when he tried again with Edgar, it didn't work. And then we kind of get into sort of like the magical realism of this movie where Riskrewski is like, so science, it's in the brain, but it's also in the heart.
Which, that's questionable, but okay.
Yeah. But he as more scientifically sound is that he's like, if you perform an experiment twice and get different results, you need to figure out what the variable is. Yeah. And if the first time, you did it out of love and you had passion for accomplishing the task, and the second time you just did it because this kid made you do it, then love is the variable that made it work.
Right. So we've got it. We've got it figured out now. All right.
Yeah. The power of love. That's all we know. Right?
The power of love.
And then we cut to Edgar. Now that his fish thing didn't work out, he's just going ahead and telling all the kids about Sparky.
Right. He's like, screw it. If I can't have my invisible fish, he can't have Sparky.
Yeah. And then we cut to the Frankenstein house where the mom and dad have found Sparky. Mm-hmm. They like go up in the attic. I think mom goes up first to
she's looking for her muffin tin. She's going to make, I believe, cherry muffins.
Okay.
Sounds interesting.
Yeah. I would try some cherry muffins.
Sure.
That sounds pretty good right about now.
I hear you. Well, she doesn't take the dog coming back from the dead too easily.
Yeah, and it's one of those sort of, so she sees Sparky and is surprised, so she screams, that scares Sparky, he starts running, the dad runs upstairs, chaos ensues.
Right. Sparky runs headfirst into a mirror and sees himself, and it's like, oh no. It's kind of like the, I'm a monster, oh no.
Yeah, you got to get that moment in most Frankenstein movies, we get that moment where the monster sees himself. And I think this is one of those moments where I think Burton said that like one of the reasons that he redid this movie is that as much as he enjoyed the way that the first one came out, there's only so much you can do with an actual dog in terms of conveying emotions.
Yeah, I don't think a dog would see itself scarred up and be like, wow, I'm awful. I look awful. Yeah. He'd be like, that's weird.
Yeah. So here we've got, this stop motion version that like can have some more facial expressions and everything. So you see that he is kind of like surprised and hurt at seeing his reflection, and he runs away.
Oh. Well, he just doesn't just run away. He runs off to a carnival.
Yeah. So he's at the carnival. He's kind of he's still kind of trying to hide. Like there's all these lights. There's all these crowds.
Yeah.
It would be scary for a dog who didn't just realize that like he might not be the most appealing looking animal,
right? Or the entirely alive as well.
Yeah. So there's that going, and so then Victor gets home. His parents sit him down, and Dad's like, so reviving Sparky was probably not the right thing to do. Right. But since that ship has sailed, basically, we'll help you find Sparky, and then we're going to need to have a chat about what you've done here.
Right, defying reality and all the laws of physics.
Yeah.
So yeah, we get Victor and his parents splitting off and going in their own directions.
Yeah. So now the Frankenstein house is empty. And then all the school kids, knowing that Victor has achieved this scientific feat, they break into the house and go upstairs to try to look over Victor's notes and his equipment so that they can beat him in the science fair.
Exactly. And Toshiaki and Nasser, they're both like, we see what he did. Excellent. And Nasser is like, tonight we will bring the dead back to life.
And there's also, again, talking about all the little subtle old movie references. When they go upstairs to the attic, they are in silhouette on the stairs, and it's the shot from Nosferatu that the gif of Nosferatu that everyone has. You've seen that shot even if you haven't seen that movie. Right. But yep. So then we cut to the pet cemetery. Sparky has escaped the crowded carnival. And he goes and finds his own grave and curls up to sleep on it.
Fucking Tim Burton, you son of a bitch.
Yeah. Yeah, there's a couple moments in this that are just clearly just aimed to just break your heart, and this is definitely one of the worst.
This is Tim Burton has learned how to just take a direct critical shot to your heart.
Yeah. Yeah, this is emotional damage for sure.
Right. Exactly.
So then we get the parents. They show up at the carnival, a little too late, unfortunately.
Right. Where Burgermeister is introducing his niece, Elsa Van Helsing, as this year's little Dutch girl.
Yeah, and so she's got to sing the sort of opening song or whatever.
Yeah. Also, why does she have candles on her headdress? That seems dangerous.
Yeah, it's lit candles sticking out of her hair and stuff. I guess the only thing that I could think of is I know the old style Christmas trees are like this, where they would have real candles in them. But I don't even know if Dutch Day is a real thing.
I doubt it. I don't think it is. I feel that's a definite no. But also,
either.
Yeah.
Yeah, either way, she's standing up there having to awkwardly sing this song in front of everyone.
Well, doesn't someone comment that I don't think that's safe, and she's like, I welcome death.
Yeah, because he says, she's saying she doesn't want to go, and he's like, a lot of kids would kill to be up here. Yeah, right. I'd welcome. Come at me, kill me, please.
Right. Of course, played by Winona Ryder, so Lydia Dietz was being channeled pretty hard there.
Oh, absolutely, yeah. And so then we get her singing, and it's a nervous young girl trying to sing, so it's very off key. It's not the prettiest song. And while she's doing that, we kind of get a montage of all the other weird kids in town getting their pets together to do a bunch of reviving. Right. We have
Nasser calling out, Colossus will finally live again.
Yeah, he's standing in front of this giant mausoleum, and it opens up, and then out comes a little mummified gerbil.
Well, that's when he resurrects him. Yeah.
Yeah. And then we get Toshiaki, who's digging up his turtle Shelly, who has a little turtle-shaped grave.
Edgar just grabs a dead rat out of a trash can.
Yeah.
Because he doesn't care.
Yeah, and then I guess Bob is not totally on board with this plan, so instead he just dumps a whole bunch of sea monkeys into a swimming pool.
Right? Because why not? You know.
Yeah.
And then of course we get the weird girl, and Mr. Whiskers brings her a dead bat to resurrect.
Yeah.
Because she's a poor hunter, and he has to show her how to do it.
Right. Mm-hmm. And that rolls pretty much straight into them all reviving things. So
right. Whiskers grabs the bat in his teeth when he gets struck by lightning. It just blows up. And knocks the creepy girl across the room. I thought she got blowed up too. I was like, oh, I just witnessed a kid and a cat just get murdered.
Yeah.
Sweet.
But instead it's like The Fly, where they end up merged, so we end up with this sort of
cat bat abomination.
Yeah, it's the Flappy Bat for this movie, but it's like a weird sort of it looks like something out of Nightmare Before Christmas more than any
it definitely.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. But before this, Mr. Whiskers was a derpy looking cat. Now he's actually malevolent looking and acting as he's hissing at the weird girl.
Yeah. And then we see Edgar's rat is bigger than it's grown to maybe dog sized.
Right, but it looks like the werewolf from Nightmare Before Christmas.
Yeah.
Just slightly shorter.
And it ends up getting into the school, and it's chasing the gym teacher around. And then we see Toshiaki, he's got his turtle, and it's sitting next to Miracle Grow or something, and so it kind of gets merged as well, which causes Shelley to not just reanimate but turn into Gamera.
Right? Exactly like Gamera. He's just an angry Gamera, you know?
Yeah. Yeah, so now we're getting a kaiju movie mixed in here, so just more classic monster stuff going on.
Right, like you mentioned, Nasser brings out Colossus, which is just a gerbil hamster mummy.
Yeah, and then we see what happens with Bob, where I'm not
the sea monkey gremlins.
Yeah, I don't know what he did. I guess he struck the pool with lightning or something, but somehow the sea monkeys come to life and they grow large as well, and it's just straight up the gremlins. They just swarm out of the pool and they chase Bob, and then we cut away to Victor, who has found Sparky at the cemetery.
Oh, they give each other a big hug.
Yeah, and it's another sweet moment where he's just just don't ever run off like that again. I was scared I lost you again. I can't lose you.
Right, exactly. But as they're reuniting, they notice something really weird about the graveyard. It's there's a lot of holes around now. A lot of things have been dug up.
Yeah, that's strange. And so then they head out of the cemetery, and they immediately bump into Bob and Toshiaki, and they're
Bob and his sea gremlins.
Yeah, they're we need your help.
Yeah.
And so then we see the giant Shelley is attacking the carnival.
Oh no.
There's a Ferris wheel that's the only sort of large landmark, and he is bigger than the Ferris wheel.
Right. And in the first nod to several movies that takes place over 5 minutes, we get Shelley appearing and kind of chasing the Burgermeister into a porta potty. Very reminiscent of Jurassic Park, right?
Yeah.
Well, how obscure do you like your movies, Anthony?
Yeah, definitely the more obscure the better.
Okay. So, have you heard of this little movie called The Ghoulies? Not the first one, but the second or third one. Because the sea monkeys pop out a la Ghoulies.
Yeah, pop out of the toilet. That's one of those even I guess I don't know if that's the case anymore, but way before I ever saw that movie, I saw the poster for it at the video store,
right?
And
but the first Ghoulies one is such a tease because nothing pops out of a toilet. They're just Ghoulies.
Yeah, that series is a wild one.
It's so wild. Yeah. Maybe one day we'll visit there. Maybe. I'm not promising anything. It's going to require a lot of edibles on that one.
Right, yeah. But so they attack the Burgermeister, and we got the rat shows up outside in the carnival. He's chasing people. Just general chaos throughout the carnival at this point. And then Nasser, I guess, thinks that maybe Colossus is still on their side, and maybe he can help.
Right.
So he releases. Yeah, he's 6 Colossus on Shelly, the building-sized turtle.
Yeah.
And they kind of like growl at each other.
Right. It looks like, hey, there's going to be a fight. We might actually have a fight here.
Yeah. But instead, Shelly just stomps on... Yeah, just flattens him.
Yeah, you know.
And he also bats Nasser out of the way.
Yeah. Knocking him into, like, some toilet paper. And then into, like, a almost sarcophagus-looking, Patricia-looking... I don't know what even that was. A stand? Or,
yeah, I think, like, yeah, so he, like, swirls around and gets wrapped with, like, you know, looks like a mummy. And then I think it's, like, maybe, like, a display case that they would, like, put dolls in for, like, you know, the carnival games. But it's shaped like a giant, yeah, like, you know, one of the, like, the nesting dolls. But then when he, you know, falls into it and the lid closes, you know, it definitely resembles a sarcophagus. So, you know, we've got the Karloff kid, and now he's the mummy as well. Exactly. So he's a little Frankenstein, a little mummy.
Yeah. Then we cut to some of the sea monkeys nomming on some popcorn.
Yeah, and, you know, so one of them eats a bunch of popcorn and explodes, and Victor sees, and he's like, wait, are those freshwater sea monkeys or saltwater sea monkeys?
Bullshit, they're brine shrimp. They should all be saltwater.
Yeah.
The science of this movie, I don't trust it.
But yeah, I guess if love can revive a dog, then I guess there can be freshwater sea monkeys. And he's like, okay, so then they're vulnerable to salt. So he starts feeding popcorn to all the sea monkeys, and they just start like popping.
Yeah. He just like takes them to a popcorn stand, and they just go hog.
Yeah. And while that's going on, the rat is like menacing Elsa and Persephone, and Sparky kind of like jumps in the way and kind of protects them.
Right.
And then the rat bites onto Sparky's neck bolt, and that causes him to explode.
He just turns back into dead rat. That's it. Just transforms back into dead.
Yeah. And then we get so Toshiaki has like gotten into the Ferris wheel and gone up to the top.
Well, like a dumbass.
Yeah, I guess he's trying to confront Shelly. Like, he thinks he's gonna, like...
Well, he's, like, recording it, like, the whole time. So I guess he's like, haha, for posterity or something. I don't know.
For his science... Yeah, he probably just thinks he still needs the evidence for his science project.
Right.
But, you know, when you've got a kaiju and you're up high, you're obviously going to get snatched. Right. You know, so he's like, you know, King Kong, Fay Ray style, you know, he's getting carried away. Mm-hmm. And then
Victor uses like a wire that's been knocked loose to just shock him, right? To shock Shelly.
Yeah, I think he sees, you know, that the lightning worked on the rat, and so he just kind of tries to, like, scale it up. And, yeah, I'm not sure where this... It's, like, plugged in, and then just, you know, the other end is just, like, a bare wire sparking and stuff, and he just, like, kind of just stabs his foot with it. And, you know, so that, like...
And Shelly doesn't even turn... He doesn't even turn into a dead turtle. He just literally turns it back into a shell.
Yeah. It's like Mario or something.
Right, yeah, exactly. He got bonked on the head.
And then we get, you know, the were-whiskers flappy cat.
That's a good name for him.
And he, like, swoops in and grabs Elsa and tries to carry her away.
Yeah, her and Persephone, right?
Yeah. So Victor is trying to, like, run after her and try to help. Mm-hmm. And meanwhile, the... you know, all the townspeople at the carnival see all this chaos, and the only thing that they see, all the other creatures are gone. Yeah, there's Sparky.
He must have caused all this chaos. He must have been the giant kaiju and the little goblins that came out of the crapper.
Yeah. So they start chasing Sparky, and so, you know, in the short, we run to like a miniature golf course where there's like, you know, a windmill.
Oh no!
But here I think it's more like
scale.
Yeah, and it's like New Holland, so they've got like a replica windmill as like part of their sort of like town. You know, it's like a attraction or whatever.
Right.
And so Sparky runs inside.
Okay. So here's what I gotta say. Like at this moment, I came to a realization. Okay. Because, remember, Mr. Whiskers could see the future, okay?
Oh, yeah.
He can predict things. he knew he was going to turn into a flappy bat. He set this up. Whiskers was the true villain of this movie all along. Right?
Yeah, I mean, that makes sense. He had a dream about Victor. He knew something was coming.
Right, so he knew he was going to turn... That's why he kept the bat in his mouth. He's like, this is how I become my god form.
He's like Professor Hill from Reanimator.
Exactly.
Like,
well, yeah, quite a bit.
Yeah. But yeah, so when Sparky gets inside the windmill, Victor and Elsa are already inside as well. Mm-hmm. So like Whiskers carried them in there. The mayor manages so in this one they do have torches. Like in the other one they had like flashlights, and somebody had like a Zippo lighter. But in this case they do have torches, and the mayor just like accidentally is just standing underneath.
Turns out that the person who sets it on fire is still just a dumbass.
yeah, he's just stupid. Like it's not the malicious setting fire to the windmill from like the Frankenstein movies.
Which is dumb.
So, Victor is trying to rescue Elsa from the fire, but Whiskers
is trying to fuck everybody up.
yeah, he's attacking, swooping through and everything. Mm-hmm. And then Victor ends up catching Elsa with a rope at the last minute. I think does she get knocked out a window?
Yes, Whiskers knocks her out a window, and she barely manages to grab onto the actual the windmill fan, like the actual windmill part of the one.
So she's safe. And meanwhile, the building starts to collapse, and Victor falls down into the fire.
Right.
And then, like in the original, Sparky manages to drag Victor out of the fire to safety.
Well, unlike the original, we think Whiskers is down, right? We see his body laying in the windmill as Sparky drags Victor out. Turns out he was playing possum, because that motherfucking evil cat jumps out, grabs Sparky, and pulls him back into the fire. He's like, you're going down with me.
Yeah, and right as they get inside, the building just completely collapses.
Now, see, here's another point in my favor of Whiskers being the true villain, because we see Whiskers get impaled. This cat gets impaled.
Yeah.
Nobody else gets this level of they're fucking dead.
Yeah, true. Yeah, he's definitely it felt like the other creatures were just kind of up to just sort of general animal mischief, but Whiskers seems
malicious,
malevolent. Yeah. Again, the townsfolk see that Sparky saved Victor, and that maybe they and they see this evil bat thing,
right?
So they clearly misjudge the situation, and they pull Sparky out of the wreckage, and but he's dead.
Yeah.
The dad's like, can we help? Is there something we can do? And Victor's like, I thought you said I needed to learn to let him go.
Right. And he's like, sometimes adults say stupid things.
Yeah, which I thought was really I think that sort of absolves him for the baseball thing too. It's just parents are just they're doing their best. They're just they're basically kids that just lived too long, and now we're just in bigger bodies, but we're still just idiot kids.
Right. There really is no such thing as an adult. That is a lie.
Yeah.
No one knows what they're doing. We're just trying our best.
Yeah. And so, that's a sweet moment. And so, like in the original, they, get a bunch of cars together. They hook jumper cables up to Sparky.
Rose screams out, give it more juice. Because of course he does.
And at first, it doesn't seem like it's working.
Right.
Again, we're getting that same moment again of it's
Burton,
just not enough power.
Motherfucker. I almost cried here. I felt the tears welling up in my eyes. I'm like, it would be a very good way to go out, in that sometimes you just can't get anything back.
Yeah, because it's you get this, you see Victor accepting it, okay, I got a few more days with Sparky, more than so I should just be happy that I got that little bonus and just accept that he's gone now, and the town is just kind of looking on very sad.
Yeah. Well, and then surprise, motherfuckers! You got pathos for no reason. The dog breathes and gets the fuck up.
Yeah. And the town just, starts applauding. Everybody's happy. And there, Persephone shows up, and the dogs touch noses, and sparks fly.
Yeah. And then we get the end.
So this one ends, basically exactly like the original does. We just get a lot more weird monster action in the middle there, and a lot of weird
that's
kids.
Great. That's just fun.
Yeah. I mean, it's basically like we're doing stop motion. We're not limited by like CGI or practical effects or whatever. We can do whatever we want. Like, let's make this bigger and weirder and crazier. And it's almost never a good thing when a movie gets remade, especially by the person who made it originally. It's kind of like, what are you cashing in on? Like, why does this movie need to exist if the original exists? And I think this movie definitely justifies its existence.
It's like, well, see, the first one wasn't bad, but here's more of it. And we're going to take things into fun, different ways. You can tell Tim Burton has obviously learned from his almost 30 extra years of experience. Shit.
Yeah. He's I'm not sure. I don't remember if he. I know he didn't direct Nightmare Before Christmas. I can't remember who directed Corpse Bride, but this he actually does direct. But it feels like he definitely spent a lot of time, with Henry Selick and learning at the feet of stop motion experts, and it shows like this. This obviously, there's a lot of hands that go into making stop motion. It's not like Tim Burton did everything, but yeah, I mean, everything in this looks great. It has such a unique style to it.
And this actually doesn't use clay, right? Like, it uses silicone based models.
Yeah. So you've still got like the metal armatures inside, but instead of clay, it's like they're silicone formed, so it doesn't have quite the clay look of like where it's been worked and stuff.
It's like
these are like
smooth.
Yeah. Which is it really works for this. Like and it's in black and white, which is really interesting. And I think they a lot of the pieces were just originally made in black and white, which in real life, if you make a black and white movie, you're filming things that are in color and you're converting it to black and white. But they were able to really fine tune the color variations by actually making it in black and making the pieces out of black and white materials and various shades of gray and stuff.
Right. So I will say, the one thing I'm actually I'm disappointed for something that really I shouldn't be, because I honestly sat there watching the entire credits expecting to see Mr. Whisker's claw twitch, just so they could be or is it? Dun dun dun. But no, I guess they just decided to kill off Mr. Whiskers, even though we don't know what really happened with Creepy Girl in the end. Where is she at? But yeah, so that was a damn good movie.
Yeah, it's really good. There's like we said earlier, there's some stereotypes that get leaned into with some of the kid characters that that feel a little lazy and sort of relying on tropes that I wish they had done a little better with that stuff. Yeah. But
they don't link
beyond that
too much, luckily.
Yeah. And we talked about Toshiyuki's accent being but beyond that, they don't lean too hard into a bunch of Asian stereotypes or anything. It's really just the accent. He does have
the dragon kite, which is kind of gross, but
yeah, true. And he's obsessed with science, but everybody's obsessed with science, so that's not an Asian kid thing.
Right.
But yeah, it does feel like Bob and Toshiyuki deserved a little better than they got.
Yeah.
But other than that, it's one of those great entry level horror movies for kids. It's just it's wholesome, it's fun.
You get a couple
obviously there's pet death, so you got to prepare yourself for that. But I mean, I feel like if you were a kid who had dealt with a pet death, this movie might be a really comforting movie.
Yeah. Definitely catharsis or pathos. Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. So, do we got any more to say about it?
I think that's it.
All right, Anthony, where can they find us?
Well,
not on Twitter anymore. Not too much.
Yeah. As I say, as we're recording this, the Twitterverse is sort of possibly collapsing. Mm-hmm. We are still on Twitter as of right now. That may change at any time. Who knows? But any social media, so at the moment we are on Twitter, Instagram. I started us a Tumblr and a Hive. Those are the two new ones that people seem to like they're moving towards. All of them were at the Frankencast, so wherever we go, you'll find us with the same handle. You can also find us on YouTube. You can email us at thefrankencast@gmail.com. Those aren't going away, so if you lose track of us as the social media world collapses, you can always email us.
As the world burns.
And if you got the money, we're at patreon.com/thefrankencast, and that works as a social media kind of area as well.
Absolutely.
You can reply to our posts and we can chat in there. Or you can
obviously watch listen to the silly silly episodes we've done just for the Patreon only.
Yeah. There's plenty of additional content there, including us talking about the 1984 short that this was based on.
Absolutely.
So there's plenty over there, and we'd love to have you, even if you just want to jump in, binge through everything and then drop out. If you can't afford a monthly thing, that's totally cool.
Yeah, I want to say any interaction's good interaction, but with the algorithm being so shit, I don't know. Just do your best, because that's what we're trying to do.
Yeah.
No obligations.
Nice. Yeah.
All right. Well, in that case... Oh, actually, Anthony, weird thing. I think I heard Kendall saying something about December?
Or Decem-Burton.
Oh, Decem-Burton. I'm sorry.
Yeah, my portmanteau-obsessed wife dubbed our this month Decem-Burton because we're going to talk about a few Tim Burton-connected movies over the next couple weeks.
So Nightmare on Elm Street. Nightmare Before Christmas is going to be involved somewhere.
Yeah, I mean, obviously it's December. We're gonna get there, but first we're gonna do another movie that feels very Christmassy, even though it's not a Christmas movie.
Does that have something
Edward
to do
Scissorhands.
With, I was gonna say, does that have something to do with flashy hands that aren't Freddy Krueger?
Yeah, and you get some snow because you got to chop up ice blocks, right?
Right.
Yeah.
Amazing.
And I'll say I'll save that for later. But yeah, so Edward Scissorhands. It's Frankenstein adjacent, and we're so it fits in with the theme, and we'll. I mean, I haven't watched that in a while, so I'm excited to kind of watch it for the show. Okay, well, happy Decem-Burton, everyone, and to be continued.
Looks like you survived another episode. The Frankencast is a production of FCR Media. It's hosted by Anthony Bowman and Eric Velasquez. Follow us on Twitter at The Frankencast, or send us a letter at thefrankencast@gmail.com. Our cover art is by Amanda Keller. You can find her at Keller Illustrations on Instagram. Our theme music is by Vivek Abhishek.